Our studio is about 3,600 square feet. We have five employees and us, and we love what we do. It's fun. Somebody's at Dane's. I hear them.
Is this pizza?
I'm sorry, I'm going to slide right now online. I'm in the middle of it.
Everybody listen.
Sorry. I did call her in her app. She said that she got back in.
Dane, we hear you.
Just pretend that we can't hear him.
We can't. Just pretend we can't hear him. Anyway, so we are very, very, driven to provide ideas and products for our clients. I'm not a photographer that ever sits with somebody and says, here are your images, let me know what you want. We are definitely much more of a studio that says, here are your images, this is what we think you should do with them, this is where you should put them, and this is how you're going to get them there. And that really kind of sets us apart, I think. So our clients like it.
Right on.
Hey,
well, so what's hilarious is in the time that you were answering that question, I went and did a thing. On top of that, I had a guest at the door, and I was trying to get the recording to work. So I didn't hear a word that you just said, and I feel awful about it. But the good thing is, I know you guys a little bit already. The conversation. So I'm glad to get caught up a little bit. I'm actually really excited because I'm coming in your direction later on. Is it the end of this year, or is it this fall or the spring? I'm coming out to Memphis. Do you guys remember? I should know that.
This fall.
Yeah, I think it's this fall.
I thought it was October.
I think it's October or November.
I think it's November.
Nobody knows.
I think it's after Photo Plus, but I'm going to do a road show there.
I'm thinking November. Yeah, I think it's November.
I'm going to find it right now.
Studio.
I will be fortunate enough to be there. Did I lose you? Oh, there you go. Yeah, I'm going to be there, Memphis, November 11th and 12th.
No, we're here.
So, all right, you're back. So, let's get into the conversation. If you guys have questions, go ahead and ask them by hitting the little light bulb in the lower right-hand corner. And by the way, in case you were wondering what the inside joke was, when I said I was going to do a thing earlier, but when we were getting ready to set up, I said I'm going to go do a thing, and I left the mic on, and then I went into the bathroom and went pee. And when I came back, Allison said, "Did you just go pee?" Because we just heard it on the mic, and thankfully I wasn't broadcasting at that time. But my first question for you guys revolves around this idea of little blog and big ideas. You started this LBOBI or Labobi site with the intention of doing a lot of things, but it seems like as I go, in case you guys don't know what I'm talking about, go to LBOBI. What are you laughing at? What am I doing wrong? The time delay is killing me. And the time delays keep going.
We're laughing at Tamara's question.
What was her question? I gotta go look.
Sorry. We're laughing at Tamara's question.
Who spends more time in their hair, Jeff?
Keep talking.
Okay, let's just Let's go straight to the question right now. Who spends more time in their hair, Jeff or Allison? Well, go ahead and answer.
Okay. Jeff, there's time on your hair that I spend on my hair. I would have to say totally you.
Because if it didn't, it would be all foofy. This is important.
Flyway hair, there's no doubt. So we're going to go ahead and drop the question. Okay, so let's make this serious.
Thanks, Tamara.
I love you.
We'll jump back in. This idea of little blog of big ideas. What do you mean by little blog of big ideas? And what do you even mean by big idea? Can you talk a little bit about that and give some context for what you're trying to create with this website?
Well, Allison will finish. The Little Blog of Big Ideas was a blog that we created last year because we knew we were doing the PPA tour, and so we wanted to have a platform to speak to our peers instead of talking all the time on our regular portrait blog, because your portrait clients don't really care that much, and if we're going to, even down to doing a tutorial, your portrait clients don't really care to see that. They want to know about what you're doing, but they don't want to know that kind of detail. I was just talking about this on our podcast, but Where did it come from?
Well, we just needed a place for a voice. Originally, it came from the fact that, with our design background, being art directors, we were, born and raised on the idea of a sketchbook. Jotting down small ideas, letting those ideas lead to bigger thoughts, the creative process, and how that all takes place. And so, you can walk in a store, see a color palette, take a mental note of what that is, and that little small idea can turn into something huge, if you nurture it. And so that's kind of the premise. It's, when we spoke, I guess one of the first times for PPA,
It was in Phoenix.
we passed out a little book called The Little Book of Big Ideas, and then it kind of like just grew from that.
Her idea was that she wanted to have, you should have that with you all the time. So when you have an inspiration, you have an idea, you have your little sketchbook to write down your ideas.
The little, little book of big ideas.
Yeah.
And so, that's something that we forget about as artists, that, you can't just create and design in the computer. You have to constantly pull from your outside sources for inspiration. And we want people to be able to get back to that. That is what's truly going to help you learn how to separate yourself out from everybody else, is when you can really figure out who you are creatively. And, you just have to be observant. I mean, everything around you is designed, from, the blue in the sky to the way the grass grows to how the light shines through the grass at 6 o'clock in my backyard, to all of that. And so that's just, basically it grew from that idea into a blog, and just a great place for us to be able to speak to our peers, like Jeff said, and have a voice. Because we just wanted to be able to have a longer conversation about things other than just on our regular ARP blog.
Right on. Well, I don't know if you guys, you're back. The time delay is absolutely killing me today, and I apologize in advance, you guys. It's worth, though, if we can be patient in the process, because, and maybe what I'll do is I'll give you guys a break from the camera too, and I'll go back and forth. But when I think about the questions around the things you're just talking about, with walking around with a sketchbook and always kind of being mindful and being a creative kind of wherever you go and looking for inspiration in every nook and cranny, I'm really struck by a couple things. The first one is, in my own experience, like just this morning I was having coffee at a local coffee shop down the street, this place called Alta Coffee, and I was just kind of having a rough morning, was discouraged and frustrated. And I was actually on the phone with my wife, and I decided that she told me actually that I needed to get out of the studio and go for a walk. And I went down, I got a coffee and got a burrito for breakfast, and I just laid down and looked up, and above me I saw these really cool old wooden, the underside of this deck. And it was this cool grayed out wood that had to be weathered, and I started to think about that, and I was thinking about my website, and all of a sudden all these ideas started flooding in. I think you're right. There's a sense in which by being on the lookout, looking to capture those things with whatever medium we have, is probably a wise thing to do. But how does that tangibly translate for you in your business? Like, that sounds like fun as an enthusiast or as a creative or as an artistic person, but can you help connect the dots for people who are pragmatic and are just wondering, how does all that collecting translate into some kind of value for a photographer who's just trying to make it and doesn't feel like they have time to even go to the bathroom, let alone, of course I don't struggle from that, but don't feel like they have time to go to the bathroom, but they want to be collectors, they want to be artists, but they feel so kind of weighed down by the pragmatics of running a business. What do you guys think?
Okay, well, I think that you're right. It's like, big idea, all lofty thoughts. But what you have to keep in mind is that those ideas ultimately turn themselves into products that you can create for your clients, and that there's a way to be profitable with that. But take a little idea like, today during my consultation, I took notes from my client, and how did I know that I needed to do that? Well, I can take the process from the very, very beginning. The very first time somebody calls, how are you going to make it easier for them? What little things are you going to do for them that are going to make a big difference in your studio? Are you going to Do a follow-up email. Are you going to send them something in the mail that reminds them of their appointments? When my clients come in with me and they sit down for an in-person consultation, I always have a note card ready. I don't want them to have to take notes. I'm going to take notes about what we spoke about. I'm going to make a to-do list for them. Little ideas that make such an impact on your clients. Now, yeah,
Give them something to drink.
Give them something to drink.
Give them a cookie.
Give them a cookie. That's little silly stuff, but it's huge.
Or health snack of your choice.
Health snack of your choice. We have frosted cookies. We don't do health snacks.
Do.
But little things like that are huge, and it might be that I'm sitting down and I'm having coffee like you somewhere, and I'm trying to make a mental note of how I can make this process easier for my clients. And those are little things that I'll come up with that make a very, very big impact with our ARP family of clients, and it makes them loyal clients. We always want them to feel very, very taken care of, and just little steps.
Like paying attention to where you are. Like we're at a hotel, like during that tour, and we noticed that I can't think of the hotel, but like when when we were registering, when we were through, she made a point to walk around the counter and came up and handed us the key and stuff. Around on the side of the counter. And I thought that was so strange. But then I noticed another person was doing that too. So I asked her, I said, is that a corporate policy? She goes, yeah, we have to do that. I said, well, that's a very nice touch. So we've actually told the receptionist and the studio manager to come up from behind the desk and greet people coming to the studio.
Yeah. I mean, and that's just like, that would be something that we would have written down in the notebook, and we probably did. We probably just wrote it down and said, okay, let's make sure Lindsay does this. When somebody walks in the door, she gets up, she greets them, she makes eye contact, she asks them if they want something to drink, she asks them to sit down. That's a little thing, but it's huge. It made a big impression on us, where we were staying, so much so that we've adopted it.
So let me connect the dots here a little bit. So I'm hearing you say that it starts off with you're noticing things, and you have this habit of constantly collecting things. So as an artist, you kind of, wherever you go, it's kind of a sketchbook, a something. It could be a camera, it could be whatever, it could be your phone, whatever. You're capturing all the time. And that in the capturing of it, you then are noticing kind of best practices, you're inspired by things, and then it translates into implementation. Now, is that a fair assessment of the kind of the track you're on? Okay, great. So given that, would you say that you have more things that you collect than you implement?
Of course.
Okay, so given that, my friend Heather, go ahead.
I was saying, like, when you said you're looking at some weathered boards, like, I was just going to say, like, and then my idea is always, I'm taking pictures of things that interest me. And even when you're out somewhere, you see things, how they're hung. I always take little pictures with the camera. Because I wanted to immediately ask you, so did you take a picture of that board that interests you?
Well, it's a block away, and I thought about, I didn't have my camera with me because my wife said to go have a burrito and leave all my work behind. So I did that. But then I thought, I work a block away, and I thought, I collected it, but I collected it in a different kind of way. It wasn't kind of in a notebook or in my mind, but it was accessible still. But I think I still don't like that. I prefer to have containers or buckets for all of my collection stuff, because if not, I get overwhelmed with ideas. And actually, it reminds me, Heather James asked this question. She's actually going to be a brave soul and broadcast this call, so I'm going to bring her on and let her ask the question, because she's related to this idea of collecting too much and wondering what it is that we could be. How do you translate that? So hi, Heather.
Hi, Dane. Hi, Allison.
Hi,
Jeff. Hopefully you guys can see and hear me okay. So
You're
I
great.
am constantly...
Go ahead and ask your question.
I'm constantly writing ideas and thoughts down, things I want to implement for my business or things that I want to promote to other photographers or whatever. I have notebooks. My poor husband thinks I'm like the notebook crazy queen. And what I have trouble with deciding is what to implement first. What little idea or little concept out of this notebook of tens or hundreds of ideas do I want to implement first? So how do you guys make that determination as to what from these little ideas do you bring into bigger concepts?
Okay.
Great question.
Yes, great question.
So I'm going to go ahead and drop you from the call so we can stay on bandwidth, but thank you for being on the call today.
Thanks.
And I'll figure out. I got to figure out how to do this. There you go. Okay, so go ahead, you guys.
Okay. Yes, it can be overwhelming. And you're writing down all these ideas. You don't know quite, what to implement first. It's, where do I start? Kind of like, flurry of thoughts. For me, sometimes I'll write down so many ideas that I'll take a notebook and I'll look back and go, oh gosh, I forgot about that. Well, that would be really good if I did that right now. But more importantly, how I pick the things is I need to pick the things that are dealing with issues in the studio currently. Like, we have a lot of pregnant mommies right now, and I wanted to take advantage of the fact that they're all having baby showers. So there was a need for me to go ahead and implement an idea that I've had for over a year to create a way for them to buy a gift certificate called a baby bundle. And what I was going to do, we wrote this idea down over, literally probably a year and a half ago, but it took, the need being forced in the studio for me to say, okay, I've got to pull the trigger on this. We actually have to make this happen. And so I had a pregnant mommy in here that had a shower deadline of 2 weeks. Nothing happens without a deadline. And so that made us actually make it happen. So I created these cards for her to send out in her shower invitations. Everybody got the little card that said that she was basically registered with us and that she wanted this product called Baby Bundles, and it was sold in $25 increments. People called and bought that. She received those gifts at her baby shower, and it was a success. But it was an idea that I had had for a really, really long time, and it took that happening in the studio for me to go, okay, I have to make this happen. So it's all about being observant and being very aware of what's going on in your business. You're gonna, if you've got 10 things written down on a piece of paper, you're gonna be able to go over that list and go, what would benefit me most right now? And that's kind of what I did.
So the good news in that is it does. So the good news in that is for folks that are feeling burdened. Like I know for myself, I have this kind of obsessive compulsive habit of I just want, if I'm collecting it, I want to use it. I get this very kind of efficient mindset. But there should be kind of a leisurely, like let yourself collect things knowing you're not going to use it all. But when you find one good, cool thing that you want to implement, you want to engage in, focus really tightly on that and try to get the best execution that you possibly can. Is that right?
Yes, that's right. When the time comes where you actually see that you're going to implement the idea, you need to take it from this lofty, thought process of being an idea and actually make yourself physically do it. Put a deadline on it. Make it happen. Promise it to somebody. I had to promise this girl that I was going to have this stuff ready. I had to design the packaging. I had to photograph it. I had to make a blog post about it. If I hadn't done all of that, it just would have stayed as, number 3 on my list. It wouldn't have happened. And so I had to,
do anything without a deadline.
I had to, force myself to go ahead and implement the idea. And I love it. It's really cute, and it looks like a little diaper, and it's a fun little gift to give. And I think that moms are really going to be excited about it. But like I said, it took us putting a deadline on it to make it happen.
Cool. Well, let's take a couple questions that are somewhat related to actually implementation. I know our friend Tamara asked a question. What are the top 3 littlest things you do that lead to the greatest client satisfaction? Great question.
You ready?
Ready.
Hey, Tamara. Okay. What are the 3 littlest things that we do?
It leads to the greatest client satisfaction.
Well, first and foremost, I would say in-person consultation before my session. That planning process, the time that I take to sit down and get to know that client, whether it's a bride, a senior, a new mom, a mom of 5, whoever it might be, but actually taking that time. We all value our time. And for me to be able to give that to that client and say, I really want to know about you. I want to know about your little boy. I want to know what he loves to sing. I want to know what he loves to play. I want to know what makes him giggle. I want to know about you guys as a family. I want to know what you wear to dinner on a Friday night. I want to know all of that. And that investment of time with them is huge. It pays off in the relationship that I have with them. It pays off in my session because I know what I'm shooting, and I can, really just gear my session around the little personalities that I've found out about. It also helps me really, hone in on what I think this client is going to want to buy, and it helps us get prepared for an ordering appointment. Whether it's at, in that consultation, we talk about budget, we talk about products, we talk about product placement. So it's really, really, really huge for our clientele. I actually had.
Is that 1, 2, 3?
No, that's
just one.
That's number 1. Okay, number 2. I would say that the.
No.
Okay. Number 2.
Okay, I'll be quick. Number 2 is the fact that we're very product driven, and we.
What does that mean exactly?
We're very product driven, and so we, give our clients something to do with their images. We don't just say, oh, okay, buy 8x10s, 4x6s, 5x7s, and have at it. We actually present them with ideas. We do what's called a virtual comp, and then when they actually purchase wall designs from us, we give them what's called a hanging template. And our daddies love us for this, and they really, really love us for this. They put it on the wall, and it tells them where to put the holes in the wall. Grab it. Put the holes in the wall, and it tells them, basically how to get their images up there. And it's something that they can roll up, put in the closet when they're done. If they move houses, they'll have it for later. Just gonna open one up.
I think where we got it.
So I don't know if you can see it, but it says place your level on the line, and then it tells them where to actually put the holes for the, this will be a gallery wrap wall. And with a gallery wrap wall, we don't hang with wire. We actually hang with two nails, because when you're designing something like this and you don't want it to shimmy right to left, you need to make sure that your pieces will stay put. So our clients really like it when we do stuff like that for them. They like the idea that we've thought the process out all the way to the very end. I always tell my clients, when you pick stuff up for me, I want it to be complete.
So I want to ask you a follow-up question for that last one. So what you're saying is you're not satisfied with just selling them a product. You want them to have a pretty extraordinary experience. So that includes not only the sale of the gallery wrap or the collection of gallery wraps, but you've thought one step further and go, they're going to have this headache when they go home, they got to hang it, and you've found a solution that's pretty low cost where they can just kind of tack up the paper, level it out, put the holes in, rip the paper down, and then magically everything just kind of goes up in a pretty cool way. I can totally see that being not a little thing, but that would be a massive thing, a differentiator for a lot of folks. But it must have taken a little bit of effort to get that idea in place. Right on. And did we get all 3, or was that number 2?
Yeah.
Okay.
That was number
well,
3.
let's move on to the next question.
Consultation.
Polly Mendez asked a question. Okay, forgive me. Polly Mendez asked. Okay, say the 3 again. Consultation.
Consultation.
45-second delay.
Product design.
Consultation.
And how to get their products on the walls.
Slow ketchup.
Okay.
I can hear you talking.
So how do you create the products? Yeah, it's unfortunate because whenever there's a little bit of a delay, and there was a minute ago, it gets worse and worse, and I apologize. How do you create the products? Where do you go to make them so that they are unique?
Okay.
Look at all the people saying they're taking notes.
I'm on page 2 of notes. Oh my. Okay.
Wow.
Can you see the question?
All right, so I'm going to answer this question. I see it. I'm going to go ahead and answer it.
So how do you create the products?
Where do you go to make them so they're unique? I don't.
What does that mean? Where do you go?
I don't go anywhere. We make them here.
So you mean like where do you go to shoot it, or where do you go to have it printed?
Might be a quick, Polly, if you want to answer that in text. Do you mean where do we have them printed, or where do we, come up with ideas?
Yeah,
go to get the inspiration
it's a good question. So, like, for instance, if people are...
There she goes. Where do you go to get...
Probably design and
to make it.
Since she can't,
get stuff to make it.
let's go with what it.
Okay.
Okay, I have an idea. Let's do this. Let's move on to the next question since we don't have the context for it. And we'll, if you want to re-ask the question, Polly, we can. But because of our time constraints, I want to make sure that we cover as many questions as possible. Here's a different question from Malia Dedez. She says, when you show your clients what you think are their best images,
When you show your
about how many
clients
of
what
them
you
do
think
you
are the
show?
best
This is
images,
kind of
about
easy,
how
quick
many
question.
do you show them?
Depending on what the depending on the subject as to who I'm shooting. If it is a single child, it's probably 30 or less. If it is a family, it could be
In the sales meeting.
close to 60, but no more than I try not to do more than that.
What about senior?
Senior would be about the same.
The 60 or the 30?
The 60.
Because they
Okay.
have multiple.
Well, they're
changes
gonna
and-
do like 5 clothing changes. So yeah.
Got it. I was in a conversation with Julia Woods, and I was going to go into, and so I think you know this, I've kind of recently expanded into portraiture, and I was ready to go into the sales meeting and told her I was going to show like 60 or 70 images, and she said, yeah, if you do that, you won't get a sale, and you're going to go for like 4 hours for the presentation. If you're going to show that many images, how do you actually bring it down? How do you focus the conversation so that you're getting to the decision making as quickly as possible? Does that question make sense?
Oh, yeah, it does make sense. And I think that you could totally show less than 60, but for us, the reason that we can get away with actually showing that many is because we already have our products designed, and we've picked, maybe 10 to 15 favorites, and when you pick 10 to 15 favorites, those are the ones that are touched up. Those are the ones that we've used for product design. Those are the ones that you can kind of steer your clients to purchase. We're not concentrating on, do you like this or this? Do you like this image or this image? We're concentrating on, do you like this product or this product? This product or this product? Okay, let's go back and make sure your favorite images are in there. And that's kind of how we handle it. So you're not onesie-twosie the client to death and making them have to make too many decisions at one time.
That's good. And
So we're concentrating on the actual product.
it seems like that's the constant theme for you guys. It's like you're going in advance of where the client is, and you're thinking, okay, what is their problem? What is their felt need? So when they walk in the room for the planning meeting, my guess is you have a sense of what their felt needs are, and you've creatively thought through different ways to anticipate that need and help them. Then when the actual photo session happens, you probably thought through what their felt need is. They're in front of the camera. Maybe they're not always in front of the camera. You probably have kind of plans on helping them feel more comfortable. And then on the sales presentation, it sounds like, again, with the products that you've designed and also the kind of add-ons like the templates that you hang on people's walls and that sort of thing, it seems like that helps them even one more step. But it seems like in all contexts, you're doing like 90% of the work for the client so that they are able to get to the sales solution quicker. And it sounds like that's pretty strategic. Is that a fair statement?
Yes, that's exactly the process. When a new client comes to me and we're doing the very first consultation with one another, I actually say to them, I don't want you to have to lift a finger during the session. I want you to sit back and relax. I want you to, feel like when you come into your ordering appointment that we're going to help you figure everything out. We're going to hold your hand through the whole process. It's going to be a fun experience, not overwhelming in any way. We're going to help you be objective about what you need and what you want. And it's very, very strategic in that. They like it. It's people like a life of convenience. They want to be helped. They want to know your opinion when you're an artist, and they want to know that what you think that they should buy. That's what they're there for. They don't want it to be that they have to decide everything for themselves.
It's cracking
They want.
me up that Jeff is doing this one. Jeff is doing this one.
I'm trying to fix this.
He keeps trying to fix our mics. I don't know why he won't leave him alone. He is a guy of comfort. So it's like, if the pillow's not straight, he's got to fix it. If it's like, if he's got to, get everything just right.
Y'all are being mean.
No, we're not being mean. We love you. We're just trying to point out how much.
Oh, somebody said you're OCD.
I am OCD. See, I don't want the headphones to stop working. I didn't want the feedback to be bothering the millions of people watching.
Well, I think if you don't turn it down, then every time I talk, it's gonna echo. Beautiful. So, hey, let's take on another broadcast call because this actually relates to all this kind of creative development stuff. But Brian Ranke asked a question. How do you price your custom design products? Do you have target margin? Hey, Brian, how's it going? Brian,
Great.
Can you hear us?
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Go ahead and ask your question.
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can. Go ahead and ask your
I just have a question
Yes.
about with how customized your products are. How do you price them, and do you have a specific margin that you shoot for, or is it kind of different based on a product-to-product basis?
Great question.
Good question.
Thanks for jumping on, man.
Thanks, Brian.
Yeah, thank you, Brian.
What do you guys?
Great question.
Go ahead. You.
Go ahead.
Great question, Brian. How do we price that? Yeah, it's not, we certainly wouldn't price it the same way we would just price, an a la carte print or an a la carte gallery wrap. We are always trying to make sure that our cost of goods sold is within 25 to 30%, which is, the industry standard according to PPA. Right now, it's just kind of where you want to stick. And so, we do have that. We kind of keep that in mind. But with a custom product, you have to account for many things. You have to account all of the pieces that are going into it, the time that it takes to create it. We have a piece in the studio right now that consists of 3 10-inch gallery wraps that are hung together with chain. And so we had to account for the hardware, the time that it takes our staff to put it together, and the time that it takes our staff to package it, because, that's part of it being a custom product. So you have to get all those line items kind of written out and then figure out how much you want to mark them up. But bottom line, we do try to make sure that it's around 25 to 30% cost of goods sold.
So regardless of what it is that you're bringing to the table, you kind of still have these standards. Sorry, I keep back and forth. Why won't this work? Go. There we go. We have a ton of questions in the written text area, so let me pull these up real quick. My man Danny Mendoza asked the question, what's the best way to take ideas from inception to reality? Inspiration board is full. So Danny has all these great ideas. What are some tangible first steps to go from how can I take what I've done and build it? It would be helpful if we had a specific example, Danny. In fact, let me drop the question. If you have a specific idea in your inspiration board, why don't you ask the question around that, and then we'll bring that up and answer it more specifically, because I think that could be even more helpful. But any general comments about Danny's question?
It is really hard to try to take an idea, just from the conception part and make it reality. And for me, whenever I have an idea of something new I want to try, I try to attach a client to it. I try to find somebody that I feel can be my guinea pig, so to speak, and I can go, hey, let me do this for you. It's something that I've been wanting to do for a while. Why don't you let me create this for you? I think you're going to really, really like it. If it fits the style of your house, it's something that I've been wanting to introduce as a new product. I'd like to do that. Would you be interested? And that really helps me. I mean, I actually had that going on with two specific things in the studio right now. The ideas that I just came up with, maybe a couple of months ago that I wanted to implement, and I found a client that would be willing to, try it out.
On a bunch of other questions here, Katrina Wheeler asked the question, do you have any specific upsell techniques to get clients to go for a bigger package? I'm curious what you think about this.
Bigger package. Okay.
Get them to spend more money.
Yeah, ultimately you're asking me how do I get them to spend more money. Actually, for me personally, we don't sell packages, so that's a little bit of a hard question. But the way that I get them to buy more is when they actually do the consultation with us, I try to shoot for multiple spaces. So if I'm going to photograph a family, I try to make sure that I have, a grouping that I can put in the, a family space. If they've got multiple children, then I want to make sure that each child gets their own time with us in the studio. So like, if I've got 3 kids, I'm going to let them do each a clothing change or something so I can get, the little girl in something that's very, bubblegummy and cute for her space, something for the little boy for his space, something for the bigger brother for his space. Because if I can create ideas for each one of those children as well as family stuff, I've now given them 4 ideas to buy from. And to me, that's the quickest way to upsell to a client, is to create things that they're going to want to purchase.
And a very basic thing that you may not be thinking about, but use a projector. I mean, a lot of people are projecting their sales on like a large screen TV, and that works pretty well. But you can't show something actual size, like really big. You couldn't show, you may be able to show a 30 by 40, but it'd be really hard.
But you wouldn't be able to show a wall design real size on a wall.
Yeah, like that we just showed. I mean, if you have a projector and using ProSelect, you can see it real size, and that makes a big difference when someone can see how big a print really is.
Clients don't understand scale. They think an 11 by 14 is large, and so that's not a whole lot bigger than a 9 by 12 mailing envelope. So you have to help them understand that process. If they come in and they're like, oh, I'm going to buy, a large 11 by 14, and they're wanting to put it on this massive wall, they will not understand that does not work until you show them that it doesn't work. And that alone right there is gonna make your sale go up.
It's funny that the question about that Leah's question about projection came up so quickly, and I think that differentiation, especially if people have a bias towards weddings. I know for me, projection was a pretty radical concept that I didn't really understand until I actually did it, and then the moment I did it, I realized, kind of by mistake, I had a pretty significant sale out of the gate. And despite my bad technique, and that showed me the power of what it was. And then you apply good technique of actually trying to solve problems for people. It seems like it's a pretty magical piece of equipment. Michelle asked the question: do you mainly focus on clients in your area, or do people come from other areas to travel for sessions for you guys?
Well, I would definitely say that our client base, we have,
We're actually right outside of Memphis in a smaller town called Olive Branch, but it's Olive Branch, Mississippi, but we're essentially a suburb of Memphis, so we part of the Mid-South, and Memphis is a pretty large metropolitan area. I mean, I say it's pretty large, but
I would have to say that even when clients move away, they still come back to see us.
Yeah.
And we do have, clients in Florida, clients in Alabama, that come into town to see family. It's kind of like once they become a client, they're always a client, because they like the way that we do things. They like the way that we, handle just the whole general process. And we do have some requests to travel. Like we may, make a trip about 3 hours away to Jackson, Mississippi, because we have a lot of interest in some new clients that way. We would kind of make a 2-day trip out of that. Same thing for Birmingham, Alabama. It's not something that we do often, but, as the need arises, if we can fill it, we will.
That's great. We're a little bit over time. Are you guys cool with these last couple questions? I want to make sure everyone has a chance to weigh in. Is that all right? And by the way, for those of you guys who are watching, I'm really impressed with the amount of folks who've jumped on the video questions, because I don't know if you noticed, but I think it's pretty fun to have you join tangibly in the conversation. It makes it way more dynamic for us. So more of you guys should be doing that. I think it's fantastic. Meredith Williams asked the question, do you only do in-person viewing, or do you also show images online? I think this is a really relevant question for a lot of folks.
We only do in-person viewing. That is, I'm not going to say that we don't do online galleries, because we do, but we do them after the ordering appointment. They have to come in, see their images, make selections, make their wish list, actually put down a deposit, pay 50% of their order, and then we actually launch a gallery for them, for friends and family. But we don't do that until they actually have placed their order.
But on occasion, when we do have clients that have came in and had the pictures made, and then they go back out of town, we'll do online ordering appointment as if they're here. We just do screen sharing.
But so like when we have out of town clients, we've used Yugu and we've used
there's several like that.
Yeah, basically so we can actually do an online ordering with them. So we're looking at the screen together, we're sharing, we're screen sharing, we're doing all that kind of stuff.
Great.
So that's technically online, but not online in the way that people think about it these days.
Got it. So it's more of an interactive thing, like a go-to-meeting kind of an event, which is probably more relational.
Yeah.
Got it. A couple more questions. Jake resets the question: when business is slow but ideas are flowing, how do you guys keep the ideas fresh for when clients return? I know this never happens for you. It never gets slow in Memphis. It's always like racy. But imagine with me for fun. When business is slow, how do you guys keep rolling?
Well, when business is slow, that's your time to implement all of your ideas. It is your time to, if business is slow and you don't have a client to test a new idea out on, then you go grab a friend and you photograph them and you create a new product. Maybe you don't have the money to have it printed right then, but the work part is done. That is when you should go get that notebook and go, okay, what can I do right now that when I get busy again will be my top three things off of this list that are going to make me the most money. And you use that time to create those ideas. That's how you keep them fresh. That's your work time. That's your processing time.
And the things that you think are going to take a lot of money, you need to be writing them down so you have a list of things to purchase. Like there's tons of things in the studio we want to change, and I always want to change, but there's no way we could afford to do all the changes. So I always say write it down, and as a little bit of time, you just make these little changes.
Yeah, he makes me make a list like, okay, I want a new
Walls be
charcoal
painted
gray
and stuff.
corner, or I want new hardwood floor in the front shooting room, or I want some different backgrounds for a certain space. And so, I'm the one that has all those thoughts, and I'm like, gosh, I want. And he's the one that's like, okay, if you can give me a list, we can check
Budget
two off
for
at a
it.
time, and we can budget for it. We might not be able to do it all at one time, but we can get it done.
Right on.
Unless it's really cool, then I go buy it.
That makes him think he thinks he's the boss.
Whose name's on the sign? That's what I want to know. Okay, so
Mine.
Rogers. Nice, good for you. Which one's in bold?
Rogers.
Which one's in bold? So
I'm Mr. Allison.
uh-oh, are you back? You froze for a second.
We're back.
Okay, great. So one other question that actually is helpful transition for me. Tamara asked one more question about, I've heard rumblings about Labobi podcast. Are there more details? And related to this, before you answer that question, I'd love for you guys to talk a little bit about Labobi in general, because there's a lot of products in there that I think could inspire people. When I go to that website, I'm looking at it right now, I'm really struck by, first off, it's a huge reflection of everything we've talked about. It's even illustrated. There's it looks like it's your sketchbook. And then within it, you have kind of things that you're obviously selling to photographers, but bigger than that, even your blog, there's so much stuff around collaboration and this kind of community that you're building, and of course, ARP. Every time I see ARP, by the way, I need to tell you, I think of ARRP sometimes, but then I see you and I realize how fresh and young it really is. But there's a lot of great and I've had a chance to play with a lot of these products too. The actions and everything is great. Talk a little bit about the whole the podcast in general, but kind of where are you going with this little blog of big ideas, and how is this going to help our community at large as we keep moving forward?
Okay, let me talk about products first, and then you can talk podcast. The products are there because we basically want to be able to give everybody else the tools that we have. You can take, this kind of answers the question of, how do you upsell to a client? Well, take some vector art, take some wings, take a favorite image and place that on there. Charge, an extra fee for that. Have that ready for the ordering appointment. That's a quicker way to do an upsell versus upgrading to a package. Create another product for them to purchase. Take the,
we call those like a designer finish.
We call it, a designer finish. Take things like, the actions that we have there. Provide your client with something other than a color or a black and white image. Take the vintage photo frames and use them and create, a series of images to put in a little book, a little, accordion fold book. Use all of those, ideas that we've provided for you there to create things to sell to your clients. It's things that we do. It's so funny because sometimes we'll design stuff and I'll go, ooh, I want that. And Jeff will be like, well, you can have it,
Yeah. Well, the things we have on there are taken from things we have in the studio and things we've been doing. So we try to just break it down.
And it's exciting when you get to see stuff like that and think, okay, gosh, now I see how I could use this. I could put this here, or I could do a coffee table book, and it's so much easier than me having to redesign something new every time. And you can take it and turn it around and put your own spin on it and make it yours, not ours. You can take it and let it be, one of the layers in the creative process for you. And that's what we love about Lebovi, is that we have a place to be able to do that for people, And then the podcast is something we've been talking about for a while. Yeah. I'm kind of not in the loop as much about that. It's definitely more Jeff, and I actually like that because it gives him a voice in the studio. Obviously, I don't have a voice. I'm kind of a big talker, so
Allison's much more eloquent than I am.
Well, talk about what are you doing on the show? What's the theme of it?
The main focus of the podcast, and next time it's going to be better, I have to say, we recorded it through Skype, and technically I'll do better. But my friend's the one's been doing, my co-host has been doing a podcast for 4 years now. So and I've been talking about doing it, but I've never had the time to do it. And he's set it up, and he's pretty much running it for me. And so I just have to call and chat some. But the point of the podcast,
creative process,
is that's what he does on the podcast. So he sort of keeps me on track. So it's about the creative process. So we want to highlight things that are going on in Lebovi. I want to highlight and talk about people who are actually making good posts. And that point of Lebovi, another big thing, is that it's a community blog. So when you join, you can make your own blog post. Now, a lot of people just want to make comments, and some people have actually, they make a lot of blog posts, and I try to make those go up once a day or 2 times a day sometimes. But that is a big draw for that, is that everyone who joins can, and it's free. The whole point everything is free. I keep saying whole point.
Don't say whole point again.
So it's free, and the podcast is to focus on what is written on the blog, and focus on different things. And also we want to focus on what is the creative process behind things. And so I have a lot of friends who are in other industries. There are creatives that I want to know how they do things, where they get inspiration. I have friends that are comic artists or writers on TV shows and producers, and I want to know when they sit down to do what they do, what mindset they have to get into, what background preparation they need to do, what inspires them to get the ideas. So I think coming up with ideas is a universal truth, and like in a photography studio and everything, we're all creative. So I get along well with other people of other industries that are creative as well, musicians and
architects,
yes,
movie makers,
yes,
illustrators, all of that,
creative. So I want to start, and that's another thing on there, is that we'll be interviewing those and talking about that.
That's great. You and I Jeff were messaging back and forth a little bit earlier this week because of that Scott Pilgrim Against the World or Versus the World movie, which is freaking awesome. Have you seen it yet?
Yeah.
The Scott Pilgrim. Did you like it?
No.
Oh, you didn't like it?
I can't say that. I should say I have, because my friends are going to make fun of me.
No, he hasn't seen it.
I have not seen it yet.
But you're familiar with the graphic novel?
I'm going to lose my geek credit. Yeah, see, a friend of mine works for Only Press, which is the Brian O'Malley who wrote it, and it's produced through Only Press. So I have a lot of friends that are involved in the film, and that's what I'm saying. I feel bad that I did not help promote it on its opening weekend, but I've Twittered about it, so and I'll send them $10. Really, that makes a difference.
You need to go see it. Well, the reason I'm bringing it up is it just says if I get to call myself a creative person, whether it be with a camera or with business or with any kind of writing, whatever. I felt so inspired going to this thing, and from a storytelling perspective, from a cleverness, from a wit perspective, and I know a lot of the dialogue was directly from the graphic novel, but it was just totally spellbinding, totally inspiring, and fun. Like, I found myself smiling and laughing the whole way through. And I don't know about you guys, but for me, especially in a down economy, I tend to get really serious and really hyper-focused on, okay, how do we stay viable? How do we get in front of this whole thing? And I realized I'm just not very good at having fun. And so much of the creative process is putting myself in a position of leisure and enjoyment. And that's just a lesson that I'm no good at. I have to really work hard at it. And when I stumble into things like Scott Pilgrim, I thought that was a great thing to kind of scream about. But do you guys find the same thing? And this is kind of the tail end of the conversation. But do you guys find that you have to create that kind of open space where you're leisure, where you play? Yeah, there you go. What in the world? I'm going to turn the camera on you and just listen for a little bit, because I want to hear what you have to say about play, because I think we all need to hear it.
I'm guilty of that too, Dane. I kind of get too serious. But I do find that when you can take time to be silly, to be playful with your creative process, that the ideas come faster. When we were art directors, we were paid to play. I was the one that had a set of jacks in my office. I had Play-Doh and silly putty and, things that made me laugh. I had, it's in my office now, a metal Betty Boop lunchbox full of Prismacolor pencils. It's the idea of play. If you get trapped in this little screen right here, or, the electronic creative process, well, you become stagnant. You can't. It's not a process. It's not, taking all these layers of the tactile and the tangible things and putting them together and making something. You may be turning it into something that goes into the computer, but you have to be playful to be able to come up with that. We're working on something in the studio right now, and a way for us to have a concept session is for us to do a group chat. And so we're all like, pounding away, like saying silly things back to one another and coming up with ideas and doing mind nodes of creative words and being silly, and some of it makes us laugh, and we're not really being serious about it, but you have to kind of get past the bad to get to the good, and the only way you can do that is to play.
That's pretty awesome.
I'm all about playing.
Jeff, anything?
Yeah, Jeff you play too much.
I do play too much.
He still thinks he's an art director.
It has to be like not free association, non-linear thinking.
He does, yeah.
Like seriously, like non-linear thinking, like free association, like you to get these ideas, like this is unrelated, but it sparks ideas. And when you sit around and you're having like a creative concept, or you're talking to someone about ideas, what they say could inspire you, even if it's a dumb idea they just said it. You may take that idea and say, well, what about this? And then it comes back to you, and they say something back, and then y'all get to a good point. That's what we learned back when we were both working in ad agencies. Like, you would sit down.
Okay, so for fun, because we're over time, but I want to do this little exercise right now, and I don't know where it's going to go. But what do you guys think about this? I'm going to grab an inanimate object on my desk, and I'm going to hold it up. I'm going to say, this reminds me of something. And then it's going to be your job to say, well, that reminds me of something else. And we'll go back and forth. And if any of you guys want to, in the question thing, say it reminds you of something, put it on there. But let's land with a product that we could actually sell to photography people. Does that sound like fun? And we have to do it in 1 minute.
Okay,
Does that sound fun? Okay.
Okay.
So,
with a delay of 40 seconds?
That's a 1 minute delay.
Well, no, it's not too bad. And stop complaining. We're having fun. We're playing right now. We're playing, people. We're playing. Okay.
Yes, sir.
So,
yes, sir.
Yes, okay.
Since I am the ultimate in infinite creativity, I'm going to hold this up and I'm going to say, this reminds me of a mouse.
What is it?
It's a mouse.
Is
but it
that
reminds me of a mouse. It's a black mouse, but it reminds me of a mouse.
It reminds me of a little mouse.
What is? Yep.
Well, I started thinking about selling. You need a mouse pad. You could print images from a a session on a mouse pad. Yellow.
Yellow mouse? Okay, a yellow mouse.
Cheese.
Well, cheese. If I had a piece of cheese with holes in it, what if when I think of prints on a wall, what if they aren't, what if we reinvented, like what if we didn't just put texture like a canvas finish or a pebble luster finish? What if we actually had dimension to a print and could carve out holes, like holes in a cheese, where there was,
That'd be
like,
really cool.
I know that there's standouts. What if there was cutouts, like where there was empty space in it, like a block?
Okay, and so
And
then you
I'm
could
going to
take,
put up a couple more.
you know, four individual images of, you know, like if you had a grid space of all of these different cheese holes, and you could put, you know, expressions of kids, you know, in these different holes, and that could be a product. You know, it consisted of, you know, the 4 individual gallery wraps and like this kind of like grid structure that you would build around it. It doesn't have to necessarily be yellow, you know, even though that of course made me think of cheese, but see, yellow made you get to cheese, which
You're talking
made you
about
think
Swiss
about
cheese.
Swiss cheese, which made us think about how to make a product
Right.
that goes on the wall that has holes.
So are the images in the holes, are
Yeah.
they extruded or pushed back? And is the
I think that the grid
That's what I-
structure is, you know, maybe in the forefront.
mhm.
Well, then that made me think: what if the grid structure was the actual pictures? We're playing. Look at us right now. What if the grid structure, like, what if I don't know if you can see in the back, right over my shoulder, there's a little, you know, 9 opening grid. Do you see that?
Yes.
Okay. What if
Yes.
the blocks of the grid were smaller and the actual tic-tac-toe lines were bigger, and instead of printing on the 9 opening, we printed on the grid and left the opening as empty space so people could kind of project kind of ideas into. So like a single image, but we just crop out the grid. Could that work, do you think, something like that? Like, I want to draw something that I could show you.
You need to draw it.
Okay.
So you're saying
So
as
like-
if
so
the
like,
grid was overlaid one image and it was cropped and it's cut out. Like one image
Right.
over multiple. There's the delay.
No, that's right. Well, and in all of this, okay, so here's the problem. I get all excited, and all of a sudden I thought we were actually in a session. And the reason we're doing this, you guys, is so that if you're listening in, is some of you guys are in a slump, and some of you guys realize that you're thinking so much about kind of what product will work, what can I sell, what can I do, when what you probably really need to do is grab a couple friends and maybe even work it out like in the chat room right now. You can even say, who wants to hang out with Leah or Jake or Corinne or Blaine or Heather and wants to do an exercise like this, and just put it on the calendar and say, look, we're going to, whether it's on Skype or whether it's in person, I would totally recommend in person, but there's no reason why that can't happen. And if it did, imagine what new inventive thing could come up. Or you could even go to labobi.com. There's that option too. And the reality is that's what the purpose of it is, right? I mean, you bring in other people, they put posts up, they engage in the conversation in that space, and that's the whole purpose of it. So why not go there? Why not take advantage of it? And if that's a place that's already existing, I think people should go there to connect. So, okay, we've gone way over time, and you guys are super gracious to let me do that. You're going to say something? Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that, you know, the thing about Labobi was, you know, this whole process that we just had could actually happen in the comments section. So if somebody posts an idea, it's a great place to be able to, just like I said, we do like an open chat window when we're in different offices for people to comment and play back and forth with one another. Here's this idea. What if you did this? What if you did this? What if you did that? Just in the comments. I'm not saying just go there, but it would be a place to kind of house something like that.
Yep.
I think you're right. There are a lot of places to do it. I think the point in all of it, whether in any of these contexts where people go, I mean, on some level, even what we're doing with Fast Track, even this conversation, it can happen. But the point is that it happens. And if Labobi will help you get there, go there. If this conversation is a catalyst for that, do that. But bottom line is we all have to be doing it. We all have to be engaging creatively. And then the trick is to take this kind of bucket of stuff and come up with some really fine-tuned ideas that you can implement in a way that no one else has done, that will get copied by everybody else, but will stand out. And the moment that stands out, kind of like that woman walking around the corner and getting out from behind the counter, or some of the incredibly inventive things you guys have done, I think you're really giving people a huge opportunity without necessarily spending a ton of money in the process. So thank you guys so much for this conversation. For me, I'm inspired. It's super helpful, and I hope you guys are too. If this was helpful for any of you guys who are listening in or engaged in the conversation, we couldn't get to all the questions today. I apologize. But if this was helpful for you, please give a shout out to Allison Rogers. That's ALLISONRODGERS. And then if you want to say hi to the other Rogers, that's fine too.